Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep into academic science, but
Okay.
not just the science itself. We're
Right.
kind of exploring like the dynamics within the academic profession itself.
Oh, interesting.
We've got some intriguing research and data
Okay.
on this thing called stratification in academia. And get this,
hmm
the image most people have of how academics become successful,
Yeah.
the reality is a little more complex.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? We often assume that scientific output
Right.
is like evenly distributed
Yeah.
with researchers contributing at a pretty similar pace.
Right.
But the data tells a completely different story.
Yeah, I was really surprised by some of the findings.
Oh, yeah.
Like this idea of skewed productivity.
Uh-huh.
There's this concept they use called the 10-50 rule.
Okay.
Essentially, it means that across Europe,
Oh, yeah.
the top 10% of academic scientists
Ah.
produce something like 50% of all the published research.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So
right.
who are these top performers? And what makes them so incredibly productive?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the research really digs deep to uncover some answers.
Okay.
It turns out that top performers tend to be
Yeah.
male, middle-aged,
Okay.
around 47 on average.
Mhm.
And usually they've reached the level of full professor.
Okay, so not too surprising.
You might think, okay, not that surprising, but here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
These high achievers,
Yeah.
they don't just focus solely on research.
Right.
They actually spend longer hours on everything,
Really?
teaching administrative tasks, service to their institutions too.
That's interesting because it challenges this common idea
Yeah.
that to excel in research, you have to sacrifice other parts of academic life.
Right.
It seems like almost the opposite is true, at least for these top performers.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps a more well-rounded approach,
Yeah.
where you're striving for excellence in all areas of academia, actually helps you become more productive in your research.
Maybe it's about like building a strong foundation across the board,
Yeah.
which then allows you to really take off in your research.
Right.
If you're an aspiring academic, that might be a really valuable insight.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking
Yeah.
that all this extra work
Right.
naturally translates into higher salaries.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And while there is a link
Okay.
between being a top performer
Mm-hmm.
and earning a top salary,
Yeah.
the relationship is a bit more complex than you might expect.
Oh, really? What did the study find?
So it found that while the top earners,
Okay.
those in the top 20% of salaries,
Mm-hmm.
they are disproportionately found
Okay.
among the top 10% of performers.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily dedicate more time to research
Oh,
than their lower paid colleagues.
that seems counterintuitive.
Yeah,
I thought we just established that top performers work longer hours overall.
they do.
Okay.
The key is where that extra time goes.
Yeah.
A large chunk of it is actually dedicated to those service and administrative tasks,
Interesting.
not research.
Huh.
So it suggests that high research productivity might lead to more responsibilities.
Yeah.
And in turn, those responsibilities, not necessarily the research itself,
Yeah.
are directly linked to higher pay.
So maybe it's not just about churning out research papers.
Right.
It's about building a reputation
Yeah.
that leads to greater influence and taking on more responsibility within your institution.
Precisely.
Okay.
Now, this brings us to another intriguing aspect of academic success,
Okay.
the impact of international collaboration.
All right.
The research categorized academics as either internationalists or locals.
Okay, that sounds pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's more to it than just your geographic location.
Good point.
What makes someone an internationalist in this context?
Internationalists are those academics who are actively collaborating
Yeah.
on research with colleagues across borders.
Okay.
They're building international networks
Okay.
and engaging in a global exchange of knowledge.
I see.
Locals, on the other hand,
Yeah.
tend to focus their research and publication efforts
Right.
within their own country or region.
Okay. And what did the study find about the output of these two groups?
Okay.
Is there a noticeable difference in their productivity?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The study found that consistently,
Yeah.
across all academic disciplines,
Mm-hmm.
internationalists publish at least twice as much as locals.
Wow, twice as much. That's significant.
It is.
Why is there such a big gap?
Right.
Are internationalists simply working harder?
Well, there are a few factors at play.
Yeah.
International collaboration often gives researchers access
Mm-hmm.
to a broader range of
Yeah,
knowledge, expertise, and resources.
makes sense.
You're essentially tapping into a global network of minds
Yeah.
working on similar problems.
Right, so like a built-in support system and think tank all in one?
Exactly. And it's not just about the resources, though.
Uh,
Collaborating internationally can open doors
Yeah.
to more prestigious publication opportunities as well.
Right, if you're working with leading researchers from around the world,
Exactly.
makes sense that your work is more likely to be published in top-tier journals.
That's right.
So it's not just about doing good work.
Yeah.
It's also about getting that work seen
Mm-hmm.
by the right people.
Exactly.
And that visibility
Right.
in those top journals would make you a more sought-after collaborator in the future.
That's right.
Right.
And this creates kind of a self-perpetuating cycle of success.
Yeah.
The more you collaborate internationally,
Right.
the greater your access to resources
Mm-hmm.
and publication opportunities,
Yeah.
which in turn leads to more collaborations and so on.
Interesting.
This is actually related to a concept
Okay.
called the Matthew effect,
Okay.
but we'll delve into that a bit later.
All right.
For now, it raises a crucial question.
Okay.
For anyone working in academia today,
Yeah.
especially those early in their careers,
Okay.
in a globalized world,
Mm-hmm.
can a researcher truly thrive
Right.
by focusing solely within their own national borders?
That's a really thought-provoking question.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder if we're unintentionally creating a system
right.
where researchers who prioritize local collaborations are being left behind.
It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
We'll explore this question in more depth as we continue our deep dive into stratification in academia.
This is already so insightful. I'm really curious to hear more about this Matthew effect
Okay.
and how it impacts the academic landscape. You mentioned the Matthew effect earlier.
Right.
Can you unpack that a bit more for us?
Sure.
What exactly is it and how does it play out in the academic world?
So the Matthew effect
Okay.
is this fascinating sociological phenomenon.
Okay.
It's the idea that advantage tends to beget further advantage.
Mm-hmm.
In simpler terms, those who already have resources and recognition
Right.
are often more likely to accumulate even more.
Okay.
It's kind of like a snowball effect.
Okay.
The bigger it gets, the faster it rolls, and the more snow it gathers.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
So how does that relate to academia specifically?
Well, imagine you're an established researcher
Yeah.
with a strong publication record
Mhm.
and a wide network of collaborators.
Okay.
You're likely to receive more grant funding,
Right.
be invited to speak at conferences,
Yeah.
and have easier access to research resources.
Makes sense.
This, in turn, allows you to produce even high-quality research,
Right.
further solidifying your position within the field.
So it's like a positive feedback loop.
Exactly.
Success breeds more success.
Yeah.
And that success can sometimes snowball into a significant advantage
Mhm.
over less established researchers.
Exactly. And this is where the Matthew effect can become a bit concerning.
Okay.
While it's great to reward hard work and achievement,
Yeah.
this effect can sometimes create a system
Yeah.
where those who are already ahead
Yeah.
have a disproportionate advantage,
Right.
making it harder for newcomers to break through.
It also makes you wonder if we're missing out on potentially groundbreaking research
Right.
from those who haven't yet had the opportunity to build that initial momentum.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of creating systems and structures
Yeah.
that can help level the playing field a bit.
Okay.
Things like mentorship programs,
Okay.
funding opportunities specifically for early career researchers,
Right.
and initiatives that promote diversity and inclusion in research
Hmm.
can all play a role in mitigating the effects of the Matthew effect.
So it sounds like we need to be mindful of not just rewarding those who are already at the top, but also actively fostering the success
Mhm.
of those who are just starting out
Right.
or who may be facing systemic barriers to advancement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, stepping back for a moment
Yeah.
and looking at the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to acknowledge
Okay.
that this emphasis on research output as the central metric of academic success
Right.
has some potential downsides.
That's true. As we've been discussing, academia is, in theory, about more than just publishing papers.
Right.
It's also about teaching,
Yeah.
mentoring, contributing to the community,
Right.
fostering a love of learning.
And when we prioritize research above all else,
Yeah.
we risk creating a system where those other crucial aspects of academic life
Right.
get pushed to the sidelines.
You know, it's interesting. We've been talking a lot about this idea of internationalists versus locals.
Right.
And it makes me think about the potential biases
Yeah.
that might be built into our current systems of evaluating academic work.
That's an important point to consider.
Yeah.
If we primarily value research that's published in international journals,
Right.
or that involves large-scale global collaborations,
Yeah.
are we inadvertently overlooking valuable research being done
Yeah.
at the local or regional level?
Are we potentially missing out on unique insights and perspectives because they don't fit neatly
Right.
into this internationally focused model?
It's a valid concern.
Right.
It speaks to the need for a more nuanced and holistic understanding of what constitutes valuable research
Yeah.
and how we can create a system
Right.
that recognizes and rewards a wider range of contributions.
I think that's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who's involved in academia,
Right.
we need to be more mindful of the potential blind spots in our current systems and actively work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable environment
Absolutely.
that values diverse research approaches and perspectives.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
there's one more fascinating aspect of the research I'd like to highlight.
Okay.
It turns out that even within that top 10% of academic performers, there's still a significant amount of internal stratification.
Wait, really? So even among the elite, there's a hierarchy?
Precisely. The researchers found
Wow.
that even within this top tier, there are clear distinctions in terms of productivity, impact, and recognition.
Okay.
It's like a fractal pattern,
Interesting.
repeating itself at every level.
Right.
There's always another rung on the ladder, so to speak.
That's incredible. It's like the pursuit of academic success is an endless climb with no real summit in sight.
Which in a way can be both exciting and daunting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure.
It means there's always something more to strive for.
Right.
But it also highlights the inherent pressure and competition that can permeate academic life.
I'm wondering for our listeners who are navigating this complex and competitive world, what advice would you offer them based on these insights?
Yeah, it is a lot to consider.
It is.
Especially knowing that even when you reach what seems like the top, there's still this internal striving for like even higher levels of recognition.
Exactly.
What advice would you give our listeners, especially those who are maybe feeling overwhelmed by all this? I think the most important thing is to remember why you got into academia in the first place.
Yeah.
Was it a pure passion for knowledge, the thrill of discovery, a desire to teach and inspire others?
I mean, it's easy to lose sight of those things.
It is.
When you're like caught up in the pressure to publish and climb the academic ladder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my advice would be focus on the work that truly excites you.
Yeah.
The research that you find genuinely meaningful, even if it doesn't necessarily align perfectly with the dominant trends or the most prestigious publication outlets.
So it's about finding like your own niche, your own voice within the academic landscape.
Exactly.
Rather than trying to conform to some external definition of success.
Absolutely. And I would add that it's also important to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Academia can be incredibly demanding.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's easy to get caught up comparing yourself to others. Remember, everyone's path is different.
That's so true. We've been talking about all these different factors that contribute to success in academia, productivity, international collaboration, Matthew effect. But ultimately, you have to define what success means for you.
Couldn't agree more. And sometimes that might mean prioritizing work-life balance. Focusing on teaching and mentorship, or pursuing research that may not lead to publications in those high-impact journals.
So what I'm hearing is there's no one right way to be a successful academic. It's about finding a path that aligns with your values, your passions, and your individual goals.
Precisely. And I would encourage our listeners to think critically about the systems and structures that are currently in place. Are they truly serving the needs of all academics? Or are they perpetuating inequalities and limiting the potential for diverse forms of scholarship?
Those are some big questions. What can we as individuals within academia do to like make a difference?
Well, for starters, we can be more mindful of the language we use and the assumptions we make about what constitutes good research or a successful academic career.
That's a great point. Even subtle biases can have a big impact.
They can.
On how we perceive and evaluate each other's work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And beyond that,
yeah,
we can advocate for change within our institutions.
Right.
We can push for more equitable funding models. Support initiatives that promote diversity and inclusion, and create mentorship programs that help lift up those who might not have had the same opportunities or advantages.
So it sounds like it's about creating a more supportive and inclusive academic culture.
Exactly.
Where everyone feels valued and has the chance to thrive.
Yes.
Regardless of their research focus or career path. Zaka.
We need to move away from this hyper-competitive winner-takes-all mentality.
Yeah.
And create a system that recognizes and rewards a wider range of contributions to knowledge and scholarship.
It's been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
To delve into this topic with you. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Both individually and as a community.
Absolutely. And for our listeners out there who are navigating the world of academia, remember, you are not alone.
Right.
There are many paths to a fulfilling and impactful academic career.
Right.
Find what excites you. Stay true to your values.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
That's a fantastic note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into stratification in academia.
My pleasure.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge.